Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. We're getting into September here in Minnesota. The temperatures are starting to get a little colder, and that can mean only one thing. It's time to go drag racing. So we're going to walk through everything I do to get the Supercharged C5 Corvette ready for some quarter-mile fun. We'll do that and a whole lot more next.
Toys for Life.
Step one, and we did this yesterday, clean and detail your C5 because you don't want to show up at the track with your C5 looking like crap. Step two, drag racing and shifting at 6,500 RPMs is about the most abusive thing I put the Supercharged C5 through. So if you haven't changed your oil for a while, and mine's due, let's go ahead and get it up on the rack and put in some fresh synthetic oil. I like to do it when it's pretty warm, almost hot. That way anything that's a particle will be in suspension and hopefully come out with the oil. If somebody out there knows of a way to remove that oil filter without making a big mess on your hands, short of wearing gloves, let me know in the comments below and I'd be eternally grateful. Not too bad. It's always a good idea to fill up the filter as best you can so that when you start it up, you don't have any starvation. And always be sure to put a little oil around the rubber seal, because if you don't, bad things can happen. I've always used Wix filters because throughout the years, I've always heard they're the best. I've never really seen any solid evidence that shows they're substantially better than anything else, but I use them anyway. Similar to my friend's Z06, I've got a lesser leak from my transmission. You can tell it's from the transmission because it's red. This is Dextron and this is gear lube. So we're going to just check it. I think it's pretty minor, but since I'm under here, there's really no reason not to go ahead and check it anyway. Use my little checker tool. And it's got plenty. So it looks like I can put off fixing that seal until winter. It bugs me that it's dirty though, so I'm going to spray it quick and wipe it down. Mine had a little leaky butt from the seals when I did the clutch, but it's been 2 years and everything is looking pretty dry, and I don't see any gear lube anywhere, so there's no real need to check the diff fluid. I did the HPI diff mount last fall, and I'm really excited at the drag strip to see if I'm going to notice a difference in hopefully not losing any runs to wheel hop / vibration shake. And lastly, this is just a great opportunity to just do a quick inspection, see if there's any new leaks, if anything looks unusual, that sort of thing, and I'm thankfully not seeing anything wrong. For those of you that want to see what a supercharger looks like from underneath here, here's the main hose that comes from the head unit to the intercooler. It runs down low, and that runs up there to the head unit. And it's a pretty tight fit, but everything fits nicely. And again, it's been like 3 years. Supercharger kit from A&A all the way. I like to take the opportunity at the track to do some scanning and tuning. And for that, I use my HP Tuner scanner, but I do need to install my wideband, which I typically only install when I'm going to the track. So let's do that next. To hook up my wideband, I like to tap into one of the rear oxygen sensors, and then I just turn that off for the time being, only for track use. And then I run the cable, secure it along the floor here nice and tight, and then I use Gorilla Tape, just gently, make sure it's clean, run it up the side, and we'll run it into the car, and that way it's temporary. I like to do it this way because I don't need my wideband all year round, and this way it lasts a lot longer and stays more accurate. Okay, we're inside the C5 now, and this is my setup that I use for drag racing and doing a little tuning while I'm drag racing. So this is my air-fuel ratio gauge, and you'll see it's reading about 1, plus or minus a little bit. And what this is 1 is lambda. If you're using fuels other than just gasoline, and even pump gas in Minnesota has around 7% ethanol, you really need to switch to Lambda because it's the same for any fuel that you might run in your Supercharged C5. One represents basically 14.7 to 1 if you were using gasoline, and then I like to use about 0.78 for wide open throttle, which on a gasoline scale would be about 11.5 to 1. Here's my HP tuner setup scanner ready to run. I've got just a little holder here that does two things. It keeps the computer flatter, and then it leaves a little bit of a gap underneath for the cooling fan to work. Because sometimes if you lay it right on the seat for a while, it'll overheat because the air goes out the bottom of this particular laptop. So we're ready to go out and take a hit. I'm going to go to a freeway on-ramp. I'm going to do a second gear hit from pretty low RPM all the way up to pretty close to 6,500. My goal really is just to make sure my wide open throttle air-fuel ratio is right around that 0.78 area. So let's go for a spin. Okay, what I'm looking at here is the scan I just obtained, and this is just a second gear pull from this part here all the way to here, and I've opened it up so I can look at it in detail. I'm mainly interested in a few things: engine coolants up to operating temperature, inlet airs are 81 degrees, the wideband oxygen sensor, and again, this is in Lambda, and I wanted this to be right around 0.78, and as you can see all the way through, it's pretty close to 0.78 all the way through. It would be, if I had to go a little above or below, I'd like to go lower. That would be richer. If you go too high and you're at wide open throttle, a lot of cylinder pressure and heat, you could get detonation. So overall, I'm pretty happy with my air-fuel ratio throughout this long second gear wide open throttle pull. The other thing I'm looking at is when I went into open loop for wide open throttle, the long-term trim and the short-term trims are at 0. Trims, typically, it will never take away fuel, is my understanding at wide open throttle. If there's a positive long-term fuel trim, it will add fuel. And you want the fuel ratio here at wide open to be what is actually being commanded by the program. And you really don't want trims playing with that. So I'm happy to see this is 0. So I'm ready to go racing. Lastly, let's talk about tires. When I go to the drag strip, I choose to keep the stock ultra high performance summer tires on, and I do not swap out to drag radials. I choose to do this for several reasons. First, the Supercharged C5 is on the street 99.999% of the time, so I fully consider it to be a street car. Second, I'm basically just racing against myself, simply trying to go a little bit faster than I did last time. The C5's previous best time is 11.5 seconds at 130 miles an hour, and that's leaving the line like a turtle. If I lower my elapsed time to much below 11.5 seconds, which drag radials would absolutely do, then my track would kick me out and I would be forced to install a roll cage. And I really don't want to put a roll cage in my daily driver. I can, however, go up to 135 miles an hour in the quarter mile without having a cage. So this is the area that I'm focusing on. So my main reason for going to the drag strip, besides seeing a whole lot of awesome cars, meeting a whole lot of nice people, and getting as much fresh air and sun as I can in the short Minnesota summers, is to run as close as I can to 1150 at 135 miles an hour without getting kicked out. Well, it's time for me to run to the track, guys. If you like the video, hit that thumbs up and subscribe, please. And as always, thanks for watching.